Mary redeemed a $50,000 cash prize playing Chumba Casino online.
I was only playing for fun, so winning was a dream come true.
Chumba Casino is America's favorite free online social casino. You too could have the chance to win life-changing cash prizes. Absolutely anybody could be like Mary. Be like Mary. Log on to ChumbaCasino.com and play for free now. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details. The voice in the preceding commercial was not the actual voice of the winner.
Something you probably do know. Progressive can not only offer you a great price when you bundle home and auto, they offer you round-the-clock protection. Something you probably don't know, the average oak tree branch can hold 70 pounds. Something you probably do know, your neighbor is building their kid a treehouse. Something you probably don't know, a falling treehouse would take out your whole fence. Bundle your home and auto with Progressive and get more than a great price. Get round-the-clock protection. Something you know for the things you don't know. Coverage from Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and third-party insurers and subject to policy terms. Bundle discount not available in all states or situations.
All right, let's move over to something that's a little bit more local. A man is arrested in a case that got a lot of coverage. Steve Gregory particularly covered it. So, Steve, what is the latest of this?
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning.
Let's give people some background. This happened back in March around 5 in the morning. Marco Sandoval, 52-year-old man, was walking his dog in Mid-City near the area of Genesee Avenue and Saturn Street. And he was walking his dog as he had every day. And he'd go out early in the morning. He was a painter, a house painter. And so he was out walking his dog. A dark car kind of pulls alongside of him. A guy gets out of the car, walks up to him. Some sort of a discussion happened, maybe an argument. It's not really clear. Anyway, the guy from the car pulls out a gun and shoots him and then gets back in his car and takes off. Well, it was about, it was close to 20 minutes later, then somebody happened to notice this man, Marco Sandoval, on the sidewalk, just bleeding. They call paramedics. Paramedics get there, Lee City Fire, and they declare him dead. And the sad thing is then his daughter, whom he lived with, was at the house, and the dog ran back to the house and just sat at the porch until the daughter opened the door and saw the dog, then realized something was wrong. Then the daughter connects it and puts it together, and they find the dead man. And they were trying to figure out if this was a robbery. They were trying to figure out, what the motive was. It seemed very random. At 5 in the morning, it seemed very random. So they were trying to ask, well, that's when we got involved. They were asking for people to come forward. They were trying to get some information, look at some surveillance footage. And this is when they were able to get some through ring footage and things like that. They were able to find this dark car. They didn't really have much of a description at the time. Then detectives really went to work at it. Robbery, homicide, and they have a task force together. West Bureau homicide detectives. They put it all together, and they found out they had enough information to track this guy down. So on Wednesday of this week, they were able to file arrest warrant papers for a gentleman, 21-year-old Clifton Kamal Stiles of San Marcos, Texas. So apparently this guy, according to detectives, as soon as he shot Marco Sandoval, he drove down to San Diego, he drove to Texas, and then at one point he drove to Florida. And then he drove back to L.A. So they were trying to figure out a possible motive because he didn't steal anything. And then bottom line was, it looks like he suffers from mental illness. And the murder was completely random. Marco Sandoval was a complete random target and was completely unprovoked.
Now, we don't know to the extent that he's mentally ill. I mean, there's people that do random shootings just because they're evil people. And it's just that time of day or that time of month. And there are others that hit a level of mental illness. Almost when I always question, is someone like that sick enough mentally that they're going to be able to at least try to invoke not guilty by reason of insanity, no matter how difficult that is. And we know how often that prevails.
Yeah. Well, no, in this case, detectives didn't get into the specifics on his mental illness, what it is. But they also believe he was involved in other murders and other predatory violence. So there's a pattern, of course, from detectives' point of view.
It's a crazy case, and it's so unfortunate.
Well,
being at the obviously wrong place, wrong time, or right place, wrong time. And it's pretty horrific. It is. So how long did it take them to put all this together? And were there tips involved?
Sure. Well, again, the shooting happened on March 12th, around 5 in the morning, Arrest papers filed April. So you're looking at just a little over a month. That's pretty good. I mean, that's really good in terms of being able to wrap something like this, especially with a person that lives from out of state or is from out of state.
With the number of cases that come down that appear to be random, or there's almost no evidence out there where the police say we don't have any suspects, I just need the only way they're going to ever go forward is with a tip from someone in the public.
Right.
What percentage of those are solved?
That's a great question. I don't know a percentage of how many are solved, but I will tell you there is a high percentage of tips. And the burden on detectives, or I shouldn't say the burden, but a challenge for detectives is rifling through all of those and filtering and sifting through them and figuring out which of these are legitimate.
Yeah. And that's the question I have, especially when a reward is given, and a substantial reward. The tips have to come into the hundreds, if not the thousands, that come in. So how do they sift? If you got 2,000 tips you're looking at, you don't have the manpower to go through 2,000 to figure out if they're legitimate or not. So how does that work?
Well, what they do is they've got sort of a nexus. They can figure out a nexus, and they're already looking for keywords, buzzwords, like location, description, because by then, if detectives have zero to start with, then they have to sort of map together a profile and map together a roadmap, if you will, to get them to where they need to go. And that's how they start. They'll start with the clues that come in, the tips that come in, and they'll try to start looking for similarities. Are there any similarities here? Do 10, 12, 20 people describe the same person? Do 10, 12, 20 people describe the same area? And then they start to map that out if they have zero to go on. If they have some stuff to go on, like in this case where they had a little video, they've got a description, they've got a car, then they match that against the tips. Now, then they'll filter through by keyword and all that and buzzwords. If they all say dark sedan, then they take all those tips that say dark sedan and then they dig a little deeper. They have it down pretty good. I mean, and technology helps a lot too. So they're able to go through and filter, and like I said, come up with the keywords, buzzwords, but it takes a lot of manpower. Yeah,
I would think. And tomorrow from 8, 10 o'clock, Steve Gregory with, I guess, the newest show here on KFI, Unsolved, which is doing really well, has great legs. And interestingly enough, it's not about legs, unless someone has been killed and only the torso has been found. Then legs are involved.
Sure. Yeah.
Steve, that almost works, doesn't it?
You know what? You should record our open. You should record all of my promos.
I should. So what's going on tomorrow night with Unsolved?
So we have 2 cases tomorrow night. We're going to start the first hour on this just horrific case out of Lancaster, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Andrew Chavez and Clotilde Reyes, 2 young people in their early 20s. They were at a party, and the party was, going on pretty well. And they went outside and they were dating, and they got into a bit of an argument. And they're standing out near the middle of the street, and this car pulls up, and someone just opens fire, and they're both dead. They both get gunned down right there in the street. Well, the really sad part about this, in addition to the deaths of those 2 young people, is that a lot of the young kids and partygoers that were at the party that night, they all had their cell phones, and they all saw the argument going on. So they went over there to start recording the argument, because that's what young kids do now. And then when the car pulled up and opened fire, detectives say there were cell phone recordings of that happening, but no one will come forward.
Wow.
And this happened back in 2017.
That's a stunner that no one will come forward.
No.
Tell me about the party. Was it just this random party?
Yeah, just a random party. Young people get together.
So there wasn't a specific group of people that everybody knew each other kind of thing?
No, it was my understanding from detectives that this was just some party. And I think, if I remember correctly, it was a birthday party of some sort. And I think the girl here, Clotilde Reyes, knew the girl at the birthday party. I think that was what detectives said. This happened in the 43,000 block of 6th Street East in Lancaster. And when, this happened at around 1:35 in the morning. So the party was either kind of right in the peak, I guess, if you will, or kind of winding down. And I think that the really sad part about it, in addition to the 2 deaths, is that detectives are frustrated. There is some video that we were able to get a hold of, some surveillance video from a house that's next door. And the sad part is there's a big tree right there in front of where the car stopped. So you can see the car stop, But you see all the kids with the phones come running out recording. And that's the really sad part. And we talked to the detective about that, and he says that these kids think they're going to get killed by gang members.
Well, I was just about to say, if it is a gang-related killing and you're in the neighborhood, I could see not going forward. Although the video, this is not a witness in court.
No.
This is someone just handing a video to the police.
Sure.
So...
And this happened back in 2017, September 30th, 2017. And I asked the detective, Adam Kirsty, I said, so do you think these kids still have that recording on their phone? And he said probably not, because they're probably scared. But I'll bet you somebody out there has got it either on their phone or it's in the cloud. But someone out there. Now, here's the even worse part about this after the fact. The parents of these two young people, every once in a while get a call from somebody that says they talked to somebody that heard somebody say something that they know who was involved, or someone who saw somebody who witnessed it. And so the parents will call these kids and say, hey, do you have information about Clotilde's death or about Andrew's death? And they're like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And so these parents keep getting this like false sense of hope. And then right at the last second, these people, they break off. They go, I don't know what you're talking about. They're too afraid. They don't want to come forward. So we're going to show the video. We're posting the video on our website, kfim640.com, keyword unsolved. We'll be posting that tomorrow along with the show, and that's in the first hour. The second hour is a mysterious shooting coming out of Riverside on Christmas Day, 2016. And this is about 10 o'clock at night. 22-year-old Cassie Veretti and her boyfriend had parked. She was dropping him off to his home, and they're sitting there in the car talking. And three men walk up and pull out guns and just open fire, just start shooting into the car. Then you see on this grainy surveillance video, the car backs into another car behind him. And this is the girl is driving. Cassie Veretti is driving. She backs into this car, hits it, and then takes off. And she says as she takes off, she turns on the dome light, the interior light, and sees blood in the cup holder and realized she'd been shot. She got hit. The boyfriend apparently got grazed, but she ended up getting hit 3 times. And of those 3 times, 2 bullets are still in her body. And this happened back in 2016. But here's really kind of an odd part of this. And I talked to Cassie's brother, Dominic, yesterday, and they're a little upset with the Riverside Police Department. Now, I've already done my interview with the Riverside PD, and they talked about the reason that they delayed releasing the video. And we'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow night. But I did talk to the family yesterday, and they're not very happy with the police department. And after all these years later, the video was just released. And so we'll talk about that in the show tomorrow.
Now, when it comes to people opening up, other than let me go the other way. Let me take it in a different way. The videos that are being taken by everybody, the police now assume that virtually any crime that's being committed, there will be video, either surveillance video or someone takes cell video,
dash cam, interior cam. You're right, and that's one of the things that about technology and everyone wanting to videotape themselves or have video recordings of everything. That's one thing detectives really count on now. But just because the recording's out there doesn't necessarily mean investigators are going to get it. You still have to kind of cooperate. The only way, if they don't hand you the video voluntarily, as you know, then, they got to go through, getting it in other means, through a search warrant, other means. But having all this technology out there is great, but accessing it's a different story sometimes. So detectives do get a little frustrated with that. But they do go canvass the neighborhoods, and this video that came out for this shooting here in Riverside, it was back in 2016, so the Ring camera was not a real big thing yet. This just happened to be an old model surveillance camera on the back porch of a house that was right in front of the curb where they parked, and it just happened to be under a street light.
I've had video cameras, various systems, and I don't have a recording device. I just look at it in real time when I'm home.
It's just a monitor.
Yeah. How many people actually have recording devices? Or are they all built in now?
They're all either built in. They're all either the hard drives are in the recorders themselves, in the cameras themselves, or they're cloud-based. Most of them are cloud-based now. So they record, they hook up to your Wi-Fi in your house, and then they get stored in some other server somewhere in the cloud. That makes it easier. And then you can download it from your phone. You can access it from your phone. And, it's much, much easier that way. But you're right, because I have a lot of friends that have these cameras and they sit there on their phone and they get alerted when someone walks into their house.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
That happens. There's, the phone will, there it is on your phone. Some porch pirate taking off with what you have and, smiling
and waving,
Yeah,
saying, good luck finding me. But yeah, these Ring cameras and other cameras like this have become a really important tool for detectives.
One quick one before we go. At any given time, the police have a ton of unsolved cases. And it takes a lot of police work, man hours. How do they prioritize?
Well, it depends. A lot of times, you've got cold cases and there are more than 10,000 in LA County. A lot of times it boils down to manpower and budgeting. LA County Sheriff's Department, for instance, their homicide bureau's cold case unit, it's 10 retired detectives that come back to work on an hourly basis. And that budget has to be renewed every year. So if the Board of Supervisors does not renew that, there's no cold case unit for that year. But I think they've pretty much renewed it every year that I can remember. LAPD's cold case, they kind of work in the body of robbery homicide division. And it's one of these things where they give all of them a little bit of attention, and they just keep moving ahead until something breaks. If something breaks, then they'll put a little more attention on that.
And I'm assuming they pay a lot of attention to the DNA database, and that pops up some kind of information.
If DNA is a part of it, and if they have the ability to do that, absolutely. But some of these are just, some of them are just feet on the ground.
All right, this is tomorrow night, 8 to 10 o'clock.
Yep.
Every Saturday, the show Unsolved with Steve Gregory. Steve, thanks,
buddy.
As always.
Appreciate your support.
Catch you tomorrow.
Take care.
Handle on the News. Late edition. Handle on the News. And now, here's Bill Handel.
On a Friday morning, April sorry about that. Yeah. Okay.
29.
There we go. Keep the phone. I listen to Siri. I ask Siri questions during the show, and occasionally rings. Who was that called me? Some dating service that I've been using.
I thought you were having trouble with the date. Not to be punny, but today's April 29th.
Yeah. What did I say?
I don't know. You said,
the phone rang. The phone rang. All right. Why don't we get back? Why don't we get back to the show? What do you think?
Sure.
April 29th, Friday. And it is time for Handle on the News Late Edition, brought to you by directbuyers.com, the hassle-free way to sell your home at a fair price in 10 days or sooner. Directbuyers.com. And now it's time for our Handle on the News Late Edition. It is a super segment. No commercials till the top of the hour. Wayne Resnick, Chris Little in for Jen today, who is back on Monday, and me. And here is our lead story. The bird flu, H5N1, highly infectious among blue herons. Limited to that, but it didn't work. Highly infectious among birds, and they die a lot. They have to be destroyed. They call them depopulated, is what they do to birds. That's what they should do with the death penalty cases. We have depopulated Mr. What's his name this morning. Forget about execution. Forget about killing. I like depopulated. Anyway, it is the first case that has transferred to a human. And that has not happened before. Now, this guy who works with birds, he's younger than 40. He has only one symptom, fatigue, although he does flap his arms around a lot, with his elbows out. And that's how they knew there was something really wrong with him. But his first case has ever been reported, and it's only fatigue.
That's not good. Stay away from birds. Well, scientists have discovered a key aspect that could tell us why some people are more prone to getting pretty sick from COVID than others. Researchers in San Francisco looked at about 4,000 San Franciscans. They don't like you to call their city Frisco, by the way. And they noticed that even though they didn't have any pre-existing health conditions, their bodies were really vulnerable to COVID-19. So what they found out is a number, 0.3% of the population have this, they call it an autoantibody. And if you look at severe COVID patients, And critical COVID patients, like in the hospital, they have 20%. So there's 20% of them have this, but 0.3% of the population has it. So I don't know what that tells us. I guess stay away from somebody with COVID.
Long COVID. So long COVID is actually your own body perpetuating the symptoms.
Oh, is that what it's talking about?
So
Long COVID?
it becomes an autoimmune disease effectively? Does it transfer from simply a virus, or it adds the autoimmune process?
Your own body starts attacking your own immune system.
Yeah, that's basically it's described autoimmune.
So long COVID isn't really long COVID. Long COVID reveals an autoimmune disorder or triggers one.
So something you obviously already had.
Well, the body can always do that. The immune system, and this is what all the autoimmune diseases, it happens that something triggers our immune system to attack ourselves instead of attacking outside forces, attacking bacteria, attacking viruses.
Speaking of medical things, Canada has lifted restrictions on gay men donating blood. And they said it's actually something should have been done 10 to 15 years ago. But this is Justin Trudeau now taking a pot shot at previous Canadian administration saying, well, they never did any testing to support doing it, but they should have.
Oh, yeah.
We did the testing. We're removing the restrictions.
Yeah, when you think about it, the blood that is tested, and everybody is tested for certainly for HIV. That's one of the tests that's done. Hepatitis and a few other tests when blood is removed, every single pint of blood. And so what you're going to see now, thank goodness, gay men, and you will see those trucks, those blood bank trucks appearing at every musical that is performed in Canada.
All right. I'm going to look forward to that. Vladimir Putin is looking forward to something. He's going to the G20. He was invited by Indonesia, and Zelensky was also invited, but Putin says he'll go, and we have not heard if Zelensky's going to go. I mean, at least I haven't heard yet. Have you?
No. And Zelensky's been saying he wants to meet with Putin. There are some issues about if he continues on. I mean, but it's Zelensky who has moved forward with statements saying, I want to meet with Putin. It's going to be very interesting if they do.
Well, Ukraine is not part of the G20.
No,
either.
but it was by special invitation.
Special invitation, yeah. Wow. Interesting to see them both there.
Also, interesting to learn that Vladimir Zelensky says in the early days of the Russian invasion, he got very close to being captured by Russian troops, and so did his family, and they were holed up in the presidential offices as Russian troops attacked it repeatedly. And then some soldiers brought him and his family bulletproof vests and assault rifles.
Yeah, and he's saying it happened the day the invasion happened, but then that makes sense because at that point he's in the presidential palace. Where else would he be? So certainly the Russians knew which building he was in because at that point we didn't know, or they didn't know to the extent what the Russians would do with the shelling and the invasion. They knew it was coming. We knew it was coming. A lot of people in the Ukraine did not believe it. A lot of the world did not believe it because keep in mind, Putin kept on saying these are exercises. They are exercises. To the credit of President Biden relying on U.S. intelligence sources, he kept on saying it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And as the rest of the world, or a good part of the world, and I think it was through rose-colored glasses, who were fairly Pollyannish about it. No, it's not going to happen. Putin says it's just exercises. We believe it. There's been exercises before, and it makes sense. And he got out, obviously.
Zelensky's chief of staff said the only time they'd ever seen things like that, like what was happening, was in the movies. It's kind of fascinating to me. And then they talked about the rear entrance being blocked with a pile of police barricades and plywood boards resembling a mound of junkyard scrap. And that kept them out. Wow. An American family has caused a little bit of ruckus at the airport in Israel, in Tel Aviv. They tried to transport an unexploded shell through airport security. Apparently, they found it while traveling in the Golan Heights. And I guess it's just like they thought it was like picking up a seashell. We'll take it back to the United States with us and put it on the shelf. Well, that didn't work out very well.
Yeah, it was a live shell, it looks like.
Unexploded.
Yeah, those are fun to carry around, don't you think?
Well, I mean, I think they thought it was just an interesting artifact, and
they declared it. I mean, it's not as if
yeah,
they were
said
trying to.
We have this, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah,
we're bringing it in.
We picked it up, and it's a souvenir. And I don't know if there is a law against picking up shells in the Golan Heights. Certainly, there's a law against picking up antiquities. You go to one of these sites in Israel where they're digging up an antiquity site where they just discovered, which they do every afternoon. You grab something from there, you have violated a big law. But an unexploded shell in the Golan Heights?
That's every day.
I don't know if there's a law.
Well, putting it on the airplane is kind of problematic, but I'll bet you these people have never been out of the United States before, and they thought, hey, this is great. Let's take it home.
And by the way, I don't think if an unexploded shell, if it's just an empty shell, I don't know how problematic that is on an airplane.
Well, I don't think you can take weapons on an airplane.
It's not a weapon.
It's not?
An unexploded shell is just a shell. Or a shell that is empty of explosives is just it's a souvenir. You put it up on the mantle.
It's not empty of explosives. It's unexploded.
No, I understand. That is problematic. That I get, yes. And you don't want to find out if there's anything in it by shaking it and seeing if it rattles. That's not a good idea.
I cut a bullet in half once when I was a kid, and it was a live bullet. And people said it probably should have blown up, but you have to hit it on the firing pin. I'm sure it's the same thing with a shell. You can't just like shake it up or screw around with it too much, make it blow up unless you drop it. Hit it.
That same thing with atomic weapons, but I have never actually been involved with live shells. So, yeah,
you don't know what you're missing.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, what you're missing.
All right. Child activists, lawyers who represent parents in child protective services cases, and a lot of academics are criticizing a new algorithm that screens for child neglect, and they say this algorithm disproportionately flags Black children to be put into the foster system and Black parents to be investigated for abuse over white parents because the algorithm was built on a lot of data from mostly poor people. And it's in use all over the country.
Now, number one, I wonder how quickly that can be changed, because if this is legitimate and it leads towards at least leaning to finding out if someone is or not fit the profile, I am assuming that can be fixed and get rid of the bias by looking at many, many more people and putting those folks in the database. I'm specifically referring to white people, and lots of them. So I don't know the answer to this, but I'd be scared anyway. If that's like you were being on the no-fly list because you have the same name as someone else, and you sort of lose control of it all. And how do you un-algorithm this issue if they make a mistake?
Well, you can't undo that now. Some people may be skeptical. Oh, I don't think the algorithm is really biased. This is just another one of those stories. Just so you know, in Allegheny County, when they were confronted with the bias of the algorithm that they were using, their response was not, no, it's not. We stand by it. It's a good tool. Their response was, well, a social worker can always override it if they want.
Oh, are you talking about the social workers that ignore?
Yes, the social worker has the authority to not follow it if they decide to. So my point being, they didn't say, oh, there's no problem with the algorithm.
Right. And we're talking about social workers that are so overwhelmed that have 3 times as many cases as they should. They're the ones that are going to oversee this and figure out that the algorithm is good or bad, or that there's less of a risk than what the algorithm tells us.
USC is going to settle claims from 80 former patients, most identified as or identifying as LGBTQ. They accused a men's health
Physician.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
you're
you.
starting to sound like me. There's
Physician.
only one person allowed to do that on this show, and you're looking at him.
Anyway, they accused him of misconduct. They said, some of the former patients, that after learning that they had sex with other men, this guy, Dr. Dennis Kelly, would ask these guys a series of intrusive questions like how much pornography they consumed and whether they had hooked up with sexual partners online. But the settlement details are going to remain confidential. Man, that USC is having lots of trouble with its doctors.
Yeah, and I don't see the same level of settlement or dollars or severity here as the other doctors who have, in fact, raped patients who have come in, particularly students.
Yeah, well, sure is an odd pattern. I mean, a sick pattern.
Yeah, SC is, you're right. I mean, it's had more problems than most, or it's gotten more attention than most because it's SC.
Maybe, but I'll tell you what, if as a news person, if I saw this story at any university, it'd be a big story.
So a school board member is under fire with calls for her to resign because she posted a link to a porn site on Facebook in a post that was about school business. Before you start thinking, what kind of a freak is this? It was a typo. There is a website called Scarletine, and it's about some boring, I mean, I don't mean to be pejorative about it, but it's about boring educational stuff. And that is what she meant to post a link to. And she was talking about different aspects of educational data. And she put in, I believe, an extra letter.
Okay,
and
so it was a
didn't
pure
proofread
mistake.
It was 100% a mistake, and
okay.
nobody has any sympathy for her, apparently. They're saying, well, it shows a lack of diligence, and so she should go.
Now, you ever tried to put in the word slot machine and put the word slut machine by mistake?
No.
Actually, it's the other way for me. I have mistakenly put the word slot a couple of times, and it's easy to make a mistake. Now, this thing is it's ridiculous that they don't recognize that a mistake was made, and it's so similar. And being asked to, and look at the vote too, overwhelming. She's being asked to resign.
Yes, because it's all political. In this case, it is a witch hunt because she's somewhat controversial. She's very anti-sex education. And she screwed up and put a typo, and I think they're capitalizing on it to try to get her out.
Yeah, that's a crock.
Sorry, that triggered me when you said sexual, because I just learned a term, because I'm so sheltered, fictosexual. And I just learned about that today. It's a guy in Japan who married a fictional computer synthesized pop singer. He married a hologram, and he says he can't communicate with her anymore. He's 38, says he hit a technical roadblock with the company that provides the artificial intelligence, for the hologram to communicate with his partner. He would communicate with this character using a three-dimensional hologram, and doesn't work anymore. So now he's all bent out of shape. AI, man, gone south.
But he still loves her.
He does still love her.
Yeah,
that's the
this is
important
so
part.
Japanese.
Yes.
It's when you think about it, this sort of stuff happens in Japan. It's so weird over there.
Oh, it's going to happen
Although
here.
there are fictosexuals everywhere. It just means you're sexually attracted to fictional characters.
I know it's that raw fish. I'll tell you, does it every single time to these people.
So anime, what do you call it?
Enemas.
Anime?
Yeah, enemas.
No, not enemas, Bill. Anime.
Anime.
Oh, it's close.
Anime. If
Okay.
you're attracted to anime, that makes you fictosexual then?
Next time you're preparing for a colonoscopy, maybe you'll find out if there's a big difference or not. Oh, my goodness. Hey, let's move on to this. Google has a new website that you can go to and request removal of a wider array of your information than they previously allowed. They used to be very narrow and very strict about when they would take information out of their system. If it was used for doxing you and could cause danger, they would take it out. And certain things like a bank account number or a credit card number, they would take out. But now you'll be able to request that they remove things like email addresses, phone numbers, etc.
Which makes sense.
Of course, they'll keep all the information themselves.
Yeah, of course.
You know. Well, Ford's got a problem. It's recalling more than a 250,000 SUVs, the Explorer, because it can roll away while shifted into park.
And that's not supposed to happen when you put it in park? It's
no,
not
especially
supposed to
on
roll?
a flat surface.
Oh, okay.
No,
it's kind of antithetical to the
whole
position
concept. Yes.
of the knob. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I've never seen that one.
Yeah. So go to their website, and I'm sure.
Yeah, go to it's 2020 through 2022 if you're interested.
Well, a new survey by a firm called Castle with a K. It's a security firm that tracks key card swipes in thousands of commercial buildings, and they did a little survey of 32,000 workers around the world. 64% said if their bosses make them come back to the office full time, they will consider quitting, getting another job.
All right. Considering quitting is one thing, all right, as opposed to they will quit. And we know that with all the other surveys, workers want a hybrid work environment. They want part home, part office. And that's what we have here. Well, not here.
Oh, yeah, we have part home here.
I'm talking about the sales department.
Oh.
And I'm talking about management. Well, no, management is here every day. It's the sales department just down the hall because I'm always down there.
They're here Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Who, sales?
Yes, and the managers.
Oh, I thought some of the managers were there every day.
No, I did too, but I was schooled day before yesterday about it. Speaking of key cards, just quickly, there were rumors here that people were keeping track of our key cards. In other words, they were looking at when we checked in, when we checked out.
Well, you can do that. I mean, that's the whole point. Sure.
Yeah, but I don't think it ever really happened. Well, guess who's leaving the late night show? A guy named James Corden, and he says he's leaving his show next year. He says it's a good time to move on, and we'll see what else might be out there.
Yeah, he's pretty popular. I mean, he's a funny guy. He's a Brit. And he's pretty immense, too. I mean, he's doing commercials, and he's lost X number of weight, and you can't really tell. But he's a funny guy.
The Late Show, yeah. And he says he doesn't really have any plans right now. I mean, he may, but he's not talking about them.
All right, let's one quick one.
All right, very quickly, Monopoly will let people decide which of the retired tokens, the original tokens that they retired, will be brought back to the game. They're going to refresh the tokens. So you can vote to bring back the thimble or the wheelbarrow, the iron or the boot or the horse and rider or the money bag.
So you can't bring back the little penis.
There never was one.
Really?
I don't know what version of Monopoly you
that was the candlestick, Bill.
Yes, we're done, guys. Finish. Coming up, the oligarchs, their assets. Can we sell them? That's the question I'm going to ask. This is KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
iHeartRadio Wango Tango 2022 was incredible, with performances from superstars like Shawn Mendes, the Chainsmokers, Camila Cabello, Diplo, and many more. It also marked the launch of iHeart's VIPX with Vadim. VIPX is a new digital platform that lets iHeart concert goers unlock exclusive prizes, content, and experiences using Vadim's wallet of wallets. An easy-to-use way to enjoy the metaverse through AR adventures, NFTs, virtual merchandise, and more. To easily set up your wallet of wallets or get more info on Vadim experiences at iHeart events like Wango Tango, go to Vadim.com today.
Sure, your phone is amazing, but it's not amazing at playing music in your car. CarThing, Spotify's hardware device, is. Easier access to all your playlists and podcasts, with no lock screen or other distractions, and voice command of it all. Because a car just isn't a car without your music. That's what Spotify thinks, at least. Your car just got upgraded with CarThing. Get a CarThing from Spotify.